Hey guys, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Alana and I'm a Canadian, but I have been living here in the UK for the last 8 years, and today I wanted to answer some of the most common questions people ask me about living in the UK. First up, we have, do you regret it? Now, this one comes up often. I think we are all scared of making a giant life decision and then regretting it. For me, do I regret moving to the UK and living here? No, I don't. But that doesn't mean that it has been easy. This has been the hardest experience of my life, but also the most rewarding. After 8 years, England is very much my second home. I met my partner here. I have had so many new experiences here. I run my own business here. I feel at peace here. Now, hot gossip alert. So here's the thing. Some people get upset that I talk about the negatives of living in the UK. I often get emails, if you don't like it, why don't you go back to where you came from, that kind of vibe. The reason I do that is I want to be as honest as possible. Yes, I have loved my decision to move to the UK, but that doesn't mean it's going to be the same for you. I've known lots of expats who have come here who've ultimately decided, nope, not for me, and have gone home. So I just want to make it very painfully clear, painfully honest that it is difficult and there are bad stuff. That's why I talk about the bad stuff. So when you experience it, it won't be that much of a shock, because you were kind of expecting it anyway. And I think that just makes you more prepared to live here. Another one I get asked often is, how bad is homesickness? Well, this one definitely varies from person to person, but I struggled a lot. I think with me, it was kind of a combination of a lot of things. So when I first moved here, everything is new and scary and overwhelming. And there's just like a higher sense of anxiety. I am anxious in my most calm moments. So in this situation, my anxiety was through the roof. And I'm just trying to figure out life here in England and whether I made a huge mistake, because I'll be honest, at the beginning, I thought I did. And then homesickness was just that final thing, just like on the top of the pile, that was tough. It does get better. Obviously, I'm here 8 years now, but it also gets worse. Holidays are tough. Christmas in particular. If you don't go home for Christmas and you're celebrating Christmas here, you might be celebrating Christmas alone. That is a vibe that's not always great. I think just understanding that homesickness is going to happen. It's just like what severity. I think that's helpful. Just expect it. It's gonna happen. All right, and you're gonna be fine. You're gonna get through it. As you get more and more settled in the UK, as you get a job and a routine and some friends maybe, and you pick up new hobbies and all that kind of stuff, you definitely settle into life better, and homesickness is less of a thing. What's the hardest things as a new expat in the UK? So for me, I would say the initial, the beginning part is really overwhelming. There is so much that needs to get organized, planned, applied for, sorted at the beginning. That can just be a bit much. But once you get the most vital things figured out, so you have a place to live, like a long-term place to live, you have a job, you know how to get from your job to your home, you have a mobile phone that works here in the UK. So once you get those, the big hurdles, the big things done, and then things really start to settle down and you can start to feel much more comfortable. But just going through that initial onslaught of things that have to be done is tough. You're in a new country and you have to do a lot of things right at the beginning. But once you get through it, and you absolutely will get through it, it's totally possible, then it's like a sigh of relief. And you can start to really enjoy your time here, because you know where you live, you got money coming in, you got a place to sleep, you got a phone, you can take a breath. What visa should I apply for? So I get a lot of messages either here, or I have a main channel called Adventures and Naps. That's more like entertainment type stuff. I do taste tests and whatever. But even on that channel, I get lots of people who are interested in coming to the UK, and they reach out to me and say, hey, what visa should I apply for? And I really can't answer that for you. But what you will need to do is to go to the UK Gov website. There is a whole section on visas and immigration, and it walks you through what visas are available and what are the requirements to apply for each visa, because that's the most important thing. The UK does have visas, but which one are you actually eligible for? That is a different question. So some of the big visas that you might be eligible for, if you happen to see this video, I would say the Youth Mobility Visa. That is for young people from certain countries. I'd also say the Ancestry Visa. If you can get that one, you're laughing. That one's probably the best one to get. That is if you have parents or grandparents that are British and you can prove it. The other one I'd say would be the Skilled Worker Visa. So that is when a UK company sponsors you to come over here, whether for like a highly skilled position or maybe you work in a shortage position and they need more workers. But before you begin literally any type of like daydreaming about living in the UK and how fun it's going to be and how great, you need to figure out if you are actually eligible for a visa, because I've known a lot of people who have reached out and ultimately can't move here because none of the visas apply to them. And that is heartbreaking, but that's the reality. What is the best place to live in the UK? Again, this is totally subjective, but I have some thoughts. Now, if you have the money, maybe you do, maybe you don't. If you have the money, I would totally recommend touring around the UK and spending a little bit of time in a variety of places to see what you like. Now, you never truly know a place until you live there, until you work there. You see it in all seasons, but at least touring around and getting a little glimpse of various places at least gives you a little bit of a vibe. You kind of get a little bit of an idea what that place might be like. If you can't travel around the UK and you really need to just like pick a place and go for it, I would recommend making a list of what you are looking for. Do you want a big city? Perhaps you want to look at Manchester or Edinburgh or London. Do you want a smaller place, but something that's like really historical? Perhaps York or Bath or Oxford or Cardiff. Do you want more of a small town? Perhaps Guildford or St. Albans. Maybe you want to be on the sea. You want to be in a coastal town. So places like Deal or much larger would be something like Brighton. Don't just assume that you need to move to London. I see so many expats fall into this pit. Don't do it. London is a great city, and if that is the vibe that you are looking for, then sure, have a wonderful time. But do not just assume that is the only place, because to be quite frank, do people say that still? To be honest, London, there's no place in the UK like it. And while that's very cool for London, what I mean by that is London does not represent the UK. So for me personally, because my partner is from Kent, we live in Kent, so that is the southeast of England, the little sort of bit between London and France. I like it because I can get to the coast quite easily. I can get to London quite easily without living in London. I also can get to Gatwick Airport really easily, so for going home or having people visit or going on holiday is really simple. So I really like Kent. It's a beautiful place in the UK, but there's honestly, there's so many nice places. So if you can tour before you commit to one particular place, I would definitely make a list of however many you can afford to see. Do that before you commit to a location, before you start applying for jobs. If you can't do that, at the very least, make a list. What are you looking for? You want big city, you want small town, do you want countryside, do you want coastal, and go from there. Now, what's my biggest tip for an expat in the UK? And I got a lot. But if I can only pick one, it is quite simply to take a deep breath and go with the flow. I hope that doesn't count as 2. The best way to experience a new culture or a new country is to get out and try it. Try new things, go with the flow. If your coworkers invite you out to the pub after work one Friday night, say yes, go with the flow, try it out. Maybe you go to a trendy new cafe on the weekend that always seems really popular. Or you go to the grocery store and buy local British food that you can taste test. Just take a deep breath because it is overwhelming, but go with the flow. If you make an effort to try new things, even just a tiny little bit every day, eventually it will feel like home. If you go with the flow and you're open to those new experiences, honestly, it makes all of the difference. Are you going to stay in the UK or move back home? The simple answer is, I don't know. I do know a lot of expats who came to the UK, ultimately decided it was not for them, and then went home. However, I also know a lot of expats who are here in the UK for the long haul. Granted, they all have kids. So I think that plays a part. The UK isn't for everyone, and I try to be very blunt about that. And if you come here and you find that it's not for you, then that's absolutely fine. You know, you don't know unless you try. I am in a weird situation in that I really truly love it here. I'm not on a permanent visa, so I don't have indefinite leave to remain. I'm working towards that. So at the current time, I can't just stay here because I want to. I still need to apply for visas and everything, but I would like to stay here. I don't know what the future holds. I want to move to the UK, but I don't know if it's right for me. So what I would say to this is you don't know until you try. I do actually have 2 videos that would help, I hope. The pros and cons of living in the UK, and the other one was red flags that you shouldn't move to the UK. I'll put a link to those videos in the description and you can give those a watch. At the end of the day, you won't know until you try. And yes, it is a lot of money and a lot of stress and a lot of paperwork and a lot of heartache, but you won't know until you try. If you are eligible for a visa, which is the first hurdle, that's like the biggest hurdle. If you are actually eligible for a visa and you want to, but you're anxious or you're nervous or you're not too sure or all of the above, I would say go for it. You never know, but also you can always go home. So yeah, it might seem like a waste of money, but in your mind, you'll know that you tried and it wasn't for you. Otherwise, maybe you don't bother, you stay home and you are forever thinking about what would have happened if you had tried. Was it all worth it? For me, yes. The visas, the crying, there's a lot of crying, the paperwork, the uncertainty, the money, the costs, the fees, the anxiety, the nervousness, like, yeah, it has been uncomfortable and difficult, and I absolutely love it. It's been a real privilege to live here. I've certainly fought for it, but I don't regret it. It has all been worth it, even though it's been difficult. If you have any questions, please leave them down below. Definitely check out this one, the 7 red flags you shouldn't move to the UK. But until then, I'll see you in the next one.